So what we're going to do is we'll kick things off now. Ash is still having a few challenges, so I'm sure she'll pop in when she can, because obviously, heck, we all love it and hate it as much as it helps us. So I'll jump in and start kicking things off now. So just for everyone who's just joined, I'm Ella. I am a social media marketing specialist. I work in Brisbane and have an agency called Social Cut. So what we'll be going through today is kind of a follow-up from last session. So if there is anyone in the group or in this chat that has any extra questions that I don't cover through today, please feel free to ask. Sorry, that was a bit of a tongue twister. So what I'll do is I'll just quickly share my screen and we can start going through some of the presentation now, or not really presentation, the workshop now. Okay, excellent. So let me just share. Okay, so basically the whole point of our collaboration together is looking at ways to strategize and to use social media as a tool to actually amplify the message of your library and make sure that you're reaching the right audiences. So one of the things that will be, well, there's a couple of things we're covering today. And that's, sorry, just one second. And that is around, so we're now in session 2. So describing and explaining the benefits and potential issues of specific platforms in more detail than session 1, how to use them, best practices and tips. So there is a little bit of that in this, more specifically around LinkedIn, because we did have a feedback session in session 1, which was asking specifically what everyone sort of needed to learn, skills to brush up on, etc. So the primary things we're looking at today will be creating accessibility. So I know that obviously working in libraries, you work with a broad range of people. So there are some tips at the end and some information around how to add captions and closed captions to videos, alt text to different photos, etc. The reason that, and it is quite wordy, but you will also get a handout of this. So it's actually a step-by-step of how to do it, which will hopefully help you if you need to upload something and find where it is that you actually need to put things. So we're also going to be kicking things off. And so what I'm really hoping to go through with you guys as well is it's quite an in-depth overview of different types of ads, ad placements, etc. for Instagram and Facebook or Meta on the Meta space across Ads Manager. We'll be discussing things like our audiences and different types of placements that you could use. Some you may not use regularly. However, I thought it was important to include that. So if there is ever an opportunity that you need to use them, you actually have a bit of a touch point to understand what that looks like and how you can use them. So jumping in, we'll kick things off straight away with campaigns, the types of ads and audiences across Facebook and Instagram. So there's 2 different things we're looking at today as well around this campaign section. So obviously one is ads and ads placement. The other side of it is actually the audiences that you're going to be reaching, because obviously, particularly in your industry, you're reaching a broad range of people. So it's really important to be able to segment and, I guess, categorize where those particular messages are going, because not all messages are relevant to all people, or for example, say not all events are relevant to all people. A couple of the, I guess, most frequent campaigns you will likely use will be your boosted posts, which is when you're posting to your social media page. And I'm sorry if this is very basic, but I just want to make sure that no matter what level of understanding you have, we're all on the same page. So when you post to whether you're Instagram or Facebook, a post into the feed, you can promote these posts. And so you can either boost them from the front end of the platform where it says boost now, or you can boost them through Ads Manager. Personally, I typically will boost our content or our clients' content through Ads Manager, simply just because it's easier to do reporting and you have a bit more control over how the money's spent, and then also the audiences you're targeting with that as well. So at the end of this section, which is quite content dense, so my apologies, but I want to make sure that when you walk away with this handout as well, you actually have all of the information there. But at the end of this particular section, we'll actually go through and do a couple of different promotions so you can see what that looks like and how you can achieve that for your library. Event promotion, so this is where you're creating a Facebook event, whether that's for a drop-in reading session or, a seniors education session or something like that. So when you're dropping into these events, you can actually obviously publish it. And many of you may have already done this, is creating an event on Facebook. You can publish it to Facebook and then run a campaign behind it just to reach that wider audience again. Page like campaigns. This may be something you've used or may not. It depends on what the budget is for your actual campaigning. But one of the big things for this would be, it helps you reach more people in your area. So you can increase the the audience of the page itself. So when you're doing those organic posts, which is just posting regularly to the feed, you're actually reaching more people. And the final one that you might likely will use a lot as well will be your traffic campaigns. So that's if you have a particular page on the library website, or if there's an event you're hosting, and let's say there's an Eventbrite or a ticket link that's external to the actual Facebook page or Instagram page, you can drive traffic there. Sorry, just having a look at the chat box, my apologies. So we're going to jump straight into the audience section. So this is a quite an in-depth overview of what the audiences can look like on Facebook and Instagram. And when I say audiences, I mean audiences that we create in the ads manager. So these aren't necessarily the audiences that are currently following your page. These are the target audiences that we want to reach. Oops. So there's a couple of different types of audiences. The first one is custom audiences. So these sorts of audiences include your website traffic audiences, customer files, offline activities. So people have interacted with your business or obviously library over the phone or offline facility. So that's like popping into library. You might have an email address for them, for example. Video audiences, so people who've watched your engaged video. So whether that's on Facebook or Instagram, you can retarget based on that. Lead gen, unlikely that you'll be using this regularly, but it may be relevant if you have someone. The lead form audience, maybe you're running a lead gen ad, and we'll follow that up later with what type of placements they are. But basically, it's a form where you fill things in on Facebook or Instagram. And with that, when you're doing basically when you run these ads, you're actually able to capture data. So maybe there is an upcoming event or an upcoming series that you have, and you don't necessarily want to release the details of that yet, but you'd like to capture, I guess, audience interest and understand how many people would be interested in this event. You can run a lead gen form, which means that they're popping in their details, voluntarily about maybe their email address, their phone number, and any other questions you might have for them. And then you actually receive that data. And so you can then, once you are ready to launch that event or session or whatever it is you're looking to launch, you have that list of potential audience available already. So you can reach out to them via email marketing, or you can retarget them, but they've already registered their interest. It just helps in accessing people that maybe haven't, when you haven't actually got a specific date in mind, for example. You've got events audiences, which is, again, people have engaged with an event that you've already posted on Facebook. So that's obviously where you actually know the date and you know that's going ahead. Instant experience audiences and Facebook page audiences. So the people that have actually engaged with your page itself. So whether that's liking, commenting, following, you can create an audience based on those people who are regular interactors with you. So our lookalike audiences. So lookalike audiences are kind of like where we create an audience that has very similar attributes to your current Facebook or Instagram audience. So what that, or even as we read through, your events or interest base or demographic, et cetera. So I'll break that down a little bit more. Basically, what we look for in a lookalike audience is you've got person A who comes to the library regularly. Maybe they're a senior, maybe they're 65. They like borrowing books. They also have grandchildren. They live in North Queensland, and they have several other interests outside of this. So that person obviously is mapped by Facebook with their interests, etc. So what we can do is create a lookalike audience based on that person and their experiences. So what we'd say is we want them to look like 1% of this person. So what that might mean is this new person that Facebook finds to target would be, a senior, they're 65, they like borrowing books, they have grandchildren, but maybe they live on the South Coast. Or, maybe they don't have grandchildren. So they are a very similar person to the type of person already following you. However, there's a 1%, 2%, it goes up to 10% basically. There's a slight variance in their attributes or their interests, for example, than the existing follower. So what that means is if we are targeting people like that, we do typically see a bit more of a result coming out of it, because obviously there is already a similarity between them and the existing follower or audience member. And then I have accidentally doubled this up. So this is the lookalike audience. Then we've also got our interest-based audience. So I'll come back to this one. I'll flick these through. Sorry, I've just left the title in twice, and my apologies on that. So that's the lookalike audience we just chatted through. Once you get these slides, you'll be able to run through that yourself as well. Our interest-based audiences are us creating our entire audience from scratch. So we might actually describe our ideal fan or person that we want to come along to an event, and maybe it's a mums group. So maybe we're targeting mums in a particular area at a particular age, with interests in baby products, wellness, and a particular magazine, for example, whether that's Marie Claire. So maybe we're doing an event or a post or something that has a particular person that would be interested in engaging with it. And that's where we create our interest-based audience. I can show you this when we actually are jumping into the live demo. So I can show you how to find a person like that. Demographics-based audience, very similar thing. You can select whether they're parents and how old their children may be. So again, it really helps in terms of targeting down to the right people to see the content that you're actually promoting. Behavior-based audiences are another useful one. So that might be things like they have a digital activity footprint. So maybe they're regularly engaging in posts, or maybe they're clicking, maybe they are traveling a lot because their data shows Facebook that they're regular travelers. So again, it just helps. Each one of these attribute-based audiences or interest-based audiences really helps you niche down who it is that's going to see that post when you're promoting it. One of the things that we do look at, and this is in the audience section of Facebook, so when you're in the back end, you can find this, is we look at how much overlap. So let's say we have created, I've just got an example here. We've got a lookalike audience to people who look like a company called Women in Digital, right? So that for Social Cut, for my agency, that may in fact be other social media members, or it may be digital marketers, or it could even potentially be business owners. And obviously as a business, we are B2B, so business to business, our clients are businesses. So that's important to us to know that this type of audience may exist. What we've also got is our Social Cut page like ads, Queensland areas. Now that for us was an interest-based audience. So we've actually popped back to have a look at the overlap between those two audiences and see, are we actually targeting two separate audiences, or are they the same audience? So for the first one, this is definitely a separate audience because we've got only a 12% overlap. For the second one, it is probably going to be very similar people. So it just, again, this is this very further detailed version of it. You may not need this, but if you are going down the path of spending money running ads, etc., it is important to have a look at what percentage of which audience actually are the same, because ultimately then you're spending money on two different audiences and just reaching the same people. So it does help to have a bit of an understanding. Let me just have a little look at my chat box. I'm just jumping into the chat box to see if there's anything in here that I might have missed. So as I said, feel free to ask any questions or pop any notes in here at this stage or whenever, and I'll jump in after each sort of section and have a look as well. So basically what we then do will be looking at our ads manager, which is the back end of Facebook. So we would head to business.facebook.com and select ads manager. And in there is where we build out our ad sets and build out our campaigns so we can actually reach these individual audiences. Sorry, just one second. Just give me just one moment. I'm just shutting my door. One thing. Sorry, I'm in the studio today and I didn't quite shut the door behind me. So someone tried to pop in. So jumping back into here, we've got our types of ads. So basically there's three main types of ads. One is an awareness ad, one is a consideration ad, and the other is a conversion ad. So each of these ad placements have various impacts to the audience and to your brand, or to the library, I suppose, in how they're going to reach people. Our awareness type ads are basically an ad set that gets as many eyes as possible on your particular post. is a great way to reach a lot of people. So we can use either the brand awareness or the reach metric, I suppose, when we're setting up the ads to do this. However, in terms of reporting, you don't actually really know what interaction people have taken. So you might have reached, and when I say reach, I will break down reach a little bit further as well, but you may have reached, 10,000 people, but what next? Have they done an action? Have they liked the page? Have they engaged with the post? Have they come into the library? We're not really sure. So really, really useful if you've got a brand message or you've got an announcement to make. However, we don't have a lot of reportability on that type of campaign type. Our consideration campaigns are probably the most common ones that you'll use in the library, which is both, and probably the main two will be your traffic and your engagement. So the traffic campaign is sending people directly to a website off Facebook or Instagram. So it may be app, messenger, etc. Typically, it'll be websites. So you might be sending them to, again, we discussed this a little bit earlier, to like a landing page to buy tickets, or maybe to a website page for more information. The engagement one, I possibly see being the most used, which is your page-like ads. So again, getting people to like the page, getting more followers, potentially as well, your engagement boosted posts. So that's getting likes and comments, and then also anything in between. So you can also use engagement ads to, drive, as I said, drive followers. You can use them to get more responses to things. So the event boosting falls under that engagement as well, because that's getting people to reply to those events. And so when you're setting those up, both you're achieving kind of two things. You're getting reach, so lots of people are seeing it, but then you're also getting the actual engagement and that reporting data of people are interested in this. I guess the reason why there is both awareness and engagement is awareness. When you're spending the money to do that, you will always get a higher reach. So you see more people see the post, but it doesn't really give you the confirmation that they're actually interested in it, because there's no engagement metrics. So we're not saying that we got 300 likes or 400 comments or 10 page likes or 35 responses, for example. So while it is useful to use that brand awareness, if you just have a generic message you need to send out, there's no way to get feedback basically when you're looking at your statistics and your reports or your data that's coming back to see if that or if they're interested in it, or they saw it. Whereas the engagement campaign definitely allows for that. Our conversion campaigns, which is the third type, is really what e-com use. So like, your brand's trying to sell your product. And these are things where you've got a pixel installed in the website, which is a line of code that allow you to actually track the on Facebook and off Facebook activity of the person who saw your ads. So typically there's an attribute window of 28 days. So what that means is if someone's seeing your ad, they click on the ad, they go to the page, that's 1 day, that's instant, that's they saw it, clicked it, went to the page. The alternative is if they've seen it, they haven't done anything with it, but then about 10 days later, they go to your page, to your website and type in www.socialcut.com. That's when we go, okay, well, we know they saw that ad, they've thought about it for a few days, and now they've come there. So that still counts as a conversion because we're able to track that data that's come across. So creating the campaign. So when creating a campaign, when creating a campaign, we recommend thinking about the desired outcome, which is something we just sort of briefly discussed. So do we want to get more people to see it? Do we want to have people buy something, like as in a ticket? Or do we want to create hype, etc.? So really thinking about what is the desired outcome, and it may be two-tiered. Like it might be, part A is that we want as many people as possible to see this event coming up. And part B is, okay, now we want them to buy the ticket. So it may be that part A is saying, look, this is coming, this is the date, and then you haven't got a registration section yet on the website. So you might be creating hype about it before it actually goes live. And then part B will be running a traffic or a conversion campaign once that's live to get them to either purchase a ticket or sign up to the website or register their interest, for example. As I discussed, we typically don't recommend using awareness campaign unless you're just reporting on reach, which, to be honest, it may be something that you do want to report on. I know typically in government organisations, it is useful to have a reach campaign because obviously the whole point is to reach as many people as possible with your message, right? So that's one instance where it actually might be worthwhile. However, typically speaking, as I said, we really tend to look at the engagement type of metric because it does increase reach, but also then shows people who are interested in your content, they're actually doing some sort of action or outcome based on that. I've just got a little note in here about our naming conventions. The reason why this is really important, and it is from just like a housekeeping, I suppose, point of view, is naming your campaigns in a way that you can easily find them. So basically, if someone else is to come in, you can keep this in a document inside the library or on a server, wherever it is, like your social media handbook or Bible, whatever you want to call it. Just so that way, when someone needs to search something, it's easily accessible to them. Because basically the way that Facebook works is it just sits there in a list and it can be really, really confusing to find things. So, campaign name, objective, month/year is a really simple way of doing it. So for this one, for example, we want event signups. You might even have the name of the event. It's going to be a traffic objective. So straight away they can see what type of campaign it is. Because as I said earlier, you might be running 2 campaigns for the same thing. So it might be, part 1 is event signups, awareness campaign, June 23. And that's getting those people to see it as you're hyping the event. And then part 2 might be event sign up traffic campaign, June 23, which is getting people to click through to the website or click through to a particular page somewhere. So having that objective in there is useful because it means that you can actually very quickly see the difference between which campaign is which. And then obviously the year and the month and year, because that way, again, I mean, the history of Facebook lasts for I think it's 8 years or something. So there's always a lot of stuff in there. And then you can obviously, as I said, you can run campaigns with multiple objectives, but I don't compare apples with oranges when reporting. So basically what that means is, obviously if we're running a reach campaign, which is the awareness campaign, then we're going to have a higher number of people that see the ad. If we run an engagement campaign, we will still have a high number, but we'll also have more engagements. So if we're comparing the two and saying, well, this one reached this many people, which is our awareness campaign, this one reached this many people, which is our engagement campaign, obviously off the back of that, you'd be like, well, the awareness campaign was more successful. But was it really? Because it really comes down to who is it that we're engaging with, who are we reaching, what is the objective? So obviously, if we're looking at it on the flip side, our awareness campaign was engaged by 50 people because the objective actually get them to engage, whereas our engagement campaign was engaged by 500 people because that was the core objective. So it's really important, even though you are reporting on both, to keep them separate and really make it clear that they are 2 different things. So just jumping into the next section, sorry. When it comes to creating our ads, basically one of the main things is A/B testing your ads may not be as straightforward as image 1 and image 3. One of the things we look at is copy variations, so making sure that we have different language, which is captions in everything, and different photos. We typically will recommend a few different variations when you are creating an ad set, so that way you can actually see what's performing best. So this may become a little bit clearer when we're setting them up ourselves, but by setting up a couple of different options, it gives you the opportunity to really focus in or hone in on what's performing best, and you can turn them off as you go. Square format in a carousel is still the best performing static format within Instagram and with Facebook. It's really, really useful when you're creating bullet points or creating text tiles because people tend to swipe through them. So it gives you, obviously, the action of swiping is an engagement. So that starts to give the algorithm feedback that this is a really high performing post. And then obviously it gives the audience a really easy way to access the text and read it. So obviously, again, this is from an accessibility point of view as well. It's really useful because people can read what it is on the top of the image itself. You can just use static images in a carousel too, so they don't need to have text over them. But either way, that swiping action is feeding the algorithm feedback that this is a campaign or this is a post, for example, that people are actually engaging with. So you will find that you'll get better results. Video is obviously another really big one too, because people are watching it. So, if there is an option to access video content, I definitely recommend it. I know that it's not always that easy. So sometimes what people may do is use a series of static photos to create a video, because that then obviously gives us, a bit more movement in it. But in saying that, if you don't have access, or if you don't have the capability, or your team doesn't have the capability to create this type of video, the carousel posts are definitely a really good option as well. Same sort of thing as well. We have some recommended naming conventions around this. So that way you've got the most, I guess, the quickest visual look to see how things are performing. When you're doing your reporting at the end, you can actually pull out which ones were performing best, rather than clicking through each of them individually to see, what was the post about. So just before I jump into the ads reporting side of things, did anyone have any questions for me around the campaign types, audiences, reaching people, etc.? Feel free to drop them in the comments, or pop your audio on and have a chat. I don't mind. Okie dokie, we'll keep moving. So jumping into ads reporting, this is a very basic overview of ads reporting, just so you get a full understanding of what the key performing indicators we look for are. So results are, when you're looking at the ads manager feed, you have the number of times your ad achieved an outcome based on the objective you selected. So your results directly relate to the objective that you've selected. So again, if it was an awareness reach campaign, it'll show you your reach in that column. If it was an engagement campaign, it'll show you your engagement. If it was link clicks, it shows you your link clicks. So that's what it will report on in that particular column on Ads Manager, so you can see what the results were. Reach is the number of people that who saw your ad at least once, versus the impressions, which is the number of times your ads were seen on a screen. So there is going to always be a variation between these two, and your impressions will always be higher than your reach, because the reach is me, a singular person. I'm on Facebook, I've seen this post, but then I may also see it on Instagram. So that's 2 impressions, but I'm just one person. So the reach is the number of people. The impressions are the number of times that person or people have seen it. So it's not individuals, it's just the number of views the actual ad has had, which is where we see the frequency, which is the division of the reach versus impressions. And so that's the average number of times people saw your ad. So depending on the campaign length, or how long it is you're running an ad for, or what you're looking to achieve, there are some different, goals around what a frequency might look like. Typically, we don't like to see a frequency grow above between like a 2 and a 4. However, if it's a very, very short campaign, so let's say the campaign's running for 2 weeks, you could easily hit a 7. And that's not ideal, but it definitely isn't a problem, because they're only seeing it for that 2 weeks. Because the reality is people don't mind seeing your business or your library, but what they don't like seeing is the same thing over and over and over again. So you can definitely pop up in their feed multiple times. That's not a problem. But if they're seeing that same ad, 6, 7, 8 times, and let's say it wasn't the 2-week period, let's say it was over the course of 6 weeks, they'd get pretty annoyed, and they could report the ad or hide the ad, which then reduces your results overall, which is where the relevance ranking comes in. So what will happen is the more that people either click on, engage, swipe through, I think I just keep getting a notification. Oh, sorry. Just wonder, with a conversion campaign, what measures activity on and off? How do you know if someone's activity off Facebook? So to be honest, most people are logged into their phone. So most people have Facebook on their phone. That would be when they're actually coming in and out of a location, which is what can track that. But also, when we're saying on and off FB as well, is that code, the pixel code that you install on the website, that will track the IP data. And so if you're seeing the ad on Facebook, then you're still browsing the internet, and then you go onto the website and it'll pick that up. So it'll pick up that you've seen it. So it's kind of like a cookie. Over time, they may become less impactful, because I know that obviously Google is trying to remove cookies, and Apple definitely has a way to go into stealth mode and not get picked up by cookies as well, or by the pixel codes. So there are different ways of doing it. And to be honest, a lot of the time when you're tracking someone, whether someone's actually come into the store, which is a location target, it's because they're logged into their phone on Facebook. And so it can acknowledge that that person's come in. Now, I know it all sounds kind of tinfoil hatty. I guess the benefit of, I wouldn't say it's a benefit. One of the, I guess the comforting, if that's the best word, things is that obviously as a marketer or as a company, you don't see the name of the people, you don't see any of their personal information. You just know that someone saw this ad and they've attended your store. It may give you some details about whether they're male, female, other, or their age range, for example. You might get some details like that, some of the data from that, but you won't physically know who they are. The only time you'll ever get personal details or capture personal details from a user is if you're running a lead gen ad. And if you do that, then obviously they're voluntarily filling those in and sending them back to you. So that's where that lead gen might come in handy. But typically speaking, you get, I guess, depersonalized data. But yes, so to answer your question, the on and off is either the web traffic based on their IP address, their browsing history. You know, are they in incognito mode? Is there a blocker on the web browser? Or if we're talking about, did they attend X location, is because they're typically logged into Facebook on their mobile device. So hopefully that answers that question. Yeah, it honestly, when I first sort of learned about it, and there's been a lot of improvements in data sensitivity and data storage on Facebook in the recent years. I know that when I first started running ads and working in this space, we could track things like people's income and target them based on that, which was pretty awful. And there were a little bit more, there was a lot more flexibility. It was a very, very cowgirl space where anything kind of went. Obviously, with all of the data sensitivity, data breaches, privacy acts, particularly in Europe as well, with the GDPR. So it's something that's becoming way more and more to the forefront. And obviously, as it gets more, I guess, commonly aware about what people do and don't do with content, with the data that people are putting into Facebook, I guess even users themselves, how are you using Facebook? Are you giving it photos of yourself? Are you giving it data? And I'm definitely not trying to get tinfoil hat, but it's definitely an important thing to be aware of. And I think a lot of our average Australians don't really think about it on a daily basis. Like ultimately, Facebook is free because we're trading data for media, which is where they make their money, is from these paid ads or from agencies or big companies, for example. So being aware, as time goes on, we'll see more legislation coming in Australia as well. We've definitely seen some starting. And hopefully, as people get a bit more aware, a bit more confident with the lingo of, I guess, how they're sharing data and what it means to them. And I think particularly because we've seen a few breaches with Optus, et cetera, recently, we should start seeing a little bit more privacy, which is also why, you know, Google's removing cookies in the future. And, you know, Apple has like blockers as well. So it kind of impacts our effectiveness, I suppose. But at the same time, I think it's overall for humans, it's very good. So we'll see what happens. So jumping back into the important metrics around tracking. So yeah, our results, impressions, frequency. Our relevance rating does have to do with this frequency. So basically when we were sort of saying about if we have a too high frequency, so let's say this person's seen our same ad 7 times in like 10 days, they're going to potentially get a little bit annoyed. So what that does is if they're reporting it as this is not relevant to me, I'm not interested, it's spam, I've seen it too many times, and you might say this, to be honest, I recommend you do it. If you don't like an ad, if it's annoying you, and this isn't your personal life, just report it as it's spam or it's unrelevant or I've seen it too many times, and you don't have to see it again. I do it very frequently because there's a lot of junk that I get marketed, particularly for my own industry. So I'm just like, I'm sick of seeing this report. But what that does is it actually reduces the relevance of that ad. So it will mean that whoever's marketing that ad or, you know, your campaign, it holds you responsible for producing better content, but B, it reduces the reach overall. So basically what we look to do is make sure we're keeping an eye on that frequency, keeping an eye on the type of content and the quality of it. Yeah, I absolutely agree, Susan. I am I'm definitely a color. I remove stuff from my social media all the time. I wouldn't say I'm an anti-social social user, but I kind of am. I did go through, 18 months of deactivating my personal Instagram account when I started the agency. And it's just because there's too much, I wouldn't say I'm diminishing the effectiveness of my competition. What I'm trying to do is encourage them to show me better ads. If they're showing me stuff that's just boring or unimpressive, I'm not going to keep watching it. So to be fair, I do it to all industries. Like if I get served an ad for a hair care company and it's not interesting, I'll let Facebook know. I mean, and as I said, I encourage everyone to do it. To be honest, it's probably happened to us. Like we probably annoyed the hell out of people too with our ads. But yeah, it just means that like if it's clogging up your newsfeed, you can just report it in there. But to be honest, it is really beneficial to some degree as well, because if I'm getting feedback in my stats when I'm actually looking at my reports that I've got a below average conversion ranking or relevance ranking to someone, it means that I'm not targeting the right audience. So it gives me the opportunity to go back and have a look and readjust my audience and make sure that I'm serving stuff to them that's relevant. Ultimately increases everyone's overall experience of social media. If you're seeing stuff you're actually interested in, that's great. If you're not, that's a bit of a waste of time. And then cost per result. So basically one of the things, and this is pretty self-explanatory, but ultimately we're looking to get the lowest cost for the highest results. So that's something that we do track. It will change depending on what type of ad it is too. So obviously a reach ad will likely have a lower cost per result or CPR than a conversion ad. And it depends again on what that conversion is worth to you. So let's say, and this is probably not as specific to what you guys are doing, but let's say you had a product for $5,000. Obviously you're more comfortable spending $10 for that conversion than someone that's got a product for $50, because that obviously eats into their profit margin. So cost per result is it varies quite widely, and it also is really dependent on how much does it cost you for that lead, or what is your cost of conversion overall for yourself and your product or your service. So it comes as a bit of a grain of salt. All righty. Okay, so looking at our metrics in a little bit more detail. So obviously some of the important metrics for reporting for our engagement tactics are our post engagements, event responses through plays, which is the number of times a video was played either to completion or for at least 15 seconds. So again, because videos autoplay in your feed, we can't really say that it was a successful, we've got 3,000 views, but how many of them actually watched it? So that's where the through plays comes in. Video play number of times it's actually on the feed. Cost per through play, obviously the cost per people watching it for at least 15 seconds. Link clicks, self-explanatory. CTR, which is a click-through rate. That is the percentage of times people who saw your ad and actually clicked on it. So let's say you reached 1,000 people, you had 100 people click through, that's a 10% click-through rate. So obviously we're trying to get that click-through rate as high as possible, because it's really going to help reduce our ad spend. And cost per click. So the difference between cost per click and click-through rate, a click is counted for anything. So they might be clicking read more on the post. They might be swiping between the images. They might be clicking on the video, but they're not clicking through to a landing page, for example. So it is important to report in that it gives you the idea of who's actually engaging, seeing more, whether that's liking or not, they're clicking on it. But the click-through rate or the cost per click-through rate is definitely going to give you a bit more of an understanding. Conversions. Now I can run through this one really quickly because again, it may not be as relevant, but it may be down the track. So it depends on what kind of campaigns you're running, and particularly for the leads and leads conversion. But ROAS or ROAS is return on ad spend. So working out based on what you spent, what is the return? Ads to cart, probably not that relevant unless you are selling an ebook, for example. I don't think you will be, but you might. App installs or activations, self-explanatory. Leads, and this is the one that we were talking about earlier, that you might be collecting information from people prior to launching an event, or just expressions of interest. That's the number of leads you connect. Leads conversion value, depending on whether the event is ticketed, may be worthwhile looking at. Purchases, cost per purchase, store visits. So this is back to that one about the number of people that have visited your store, and whether that's in person or online, depending on what your metric is there for your conversion, within the 28-day view click. So they might have, seen it for one day, gone to the website, or they've clicked on it and then they've gone back within 28 days. So one of the most, I guess, useful functions is filtering, which is why those naming conventions are important, because you can search particular words. So we might search, June event 2023, and all of those campaigns with that particular name will come up. So we can, of course, straight away off that. There are also, different ways to update the attribution timeframe, but typically speaking, it is that 28-day period. I wouldn't recommend changing it. Just keep it as is. And you can create custom monthly reports to email and update where your campaigns are at. So you can select them through the back end of Facebook, through the ads manager, and it can just keep notifying you. However, in saying that, I mean, typically if you're running a campaign, you will likely be checking in on it every 1 to 2 weeks. And usually a campaign probably wouldn't run for more than 6 weeks. So unless it's like an evergreen campaign or a page-like campaign, but even then, you'd still be wanting to go in and actually update those details and check that the images you're using or the captions you're using are still performing the best they can. And you might be adding in new content, because obviously the longer that campaign runs, the higher the frequency will get. So the higher the number of times people will see that exact ad, which will then again reduce your overall effectiveness. So unless you have a really, really wide audience, it's like Australia-wide, which is very unlikely. I know that you guys are very localized. It is important to be continuously refreshing that creative so that you can actually produce the best results. Okay, so I'm going to, Excellent. So I'm going to pause the share for this just a moment, because we're jumping and set up a live campaign. I just wanted to jump in and check in with everyone. Hey, Ashley, how are you?
Better.
Excellent.
Still learning new systems, new job, new systems, new permissions.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Was there anything that you wanted to check in with the team? Because I'm going to jump into a live session in a second, so I can let you have a quick chat if you'd like.
No, I just want, just going to check in with everyone else, see if anyone has any questions, anything you want to, they want you to expand on. Is there anything that confused them?
Yeah. Yeah. Questions. Actually, is there anything that has been confusing? I mean, I know that was quite in depth, and I guess the reason why we've done that is so that you have as much knowledge, and obviously, well, you do get the PDF of this afterwards. So you actually have all those definitions, a bit of an understanding. I just wanted to make sure you had as much exposure to what could possibly pop up.
Yeah, and it's looking really good.
Excellent. Does anyone have any questions for me at this stage?
No, it looks like everyone's pretty good.
All righty. Okay, so I'm going to jump in and give you guys a bit of a live demo of setting up an ad. I'm hoping that's useful to you guys, but what we're looking to do is we will set up a couple of different versions, and I'll show you on the screen. So give me a second. So this is our campaign manager or our ads manager. So basically that's business.facebook.com and then to the campaign account. Now, I mean, this is a bit of a moment where it's do as I say, not as I do. So this is our private social cut account, which means that most of what runs through this ad account is just boosted directly from Instagram, which is why the names are really poorly named. So what this will also mean is when I go to do my reporting, I won't be able to find anything I'm looking for because I haven't actually put naming conventions in here. Typically, we have multiple ad accounts for our agency. So all of our client accounts and any major campaign we're running isn't run through this particular one. So they are named correctly. So what I'm going to do is I'll set up an ad campaign. So in this section, we've got our campaigns, which is the overarching. We have our ad sets. And then we have our ads, which is the visual placements. So for pure example's sake, if I look at, okay, let's look at this one, for example. So this is the campaign level, which is SE test, follower increase lookalike. We only had one ad set. So this is where, so the campaign is the overarching, which is where we select our objectives. That might be link clicks, for example. Once we set that up, and I'll show you how to do this, then we may have 2 ad sets. So we might be doing, a bit of testing here and have one being, teens to young adults, and the other one might be, parents, for example. So we can actually split the budget and set them up both in here. So they're running on the same budget, but then they're automatically competing against each other to optimize, which one is the best ads. And then once we come into the next section, we'll show we'll see the individual placements for each ad, which is, the different imagery. So pure example sake, you can preview it. So there's 4 different images here, potentially 4 different messages. I mean, this looks like it was set up a very long time ago. But we can see what it will look like. So this one obviously was just run on Instagram, because we can tell by there's only 2 placements, and it's Instagram feed and Instagram Explore. So if I come back out of here, what I'll do is I'll set up my own campaign, and we're just going to do a really quick one, just so that way you can have a look at the different types of campaigns we do, or even just at the back end of the screen. So I'm not sure if this is something you've worked with before, but it definitely is helpful. So we've got in here, as I mentioned earlier, we've got our awareness, our traffic, engagement, leads, app promotions, and sales. So the leads and sales fall within that conversion. The traffic and engagement fall within consideration, and awareness is obviously just that brand awareness side of things. So what we're going to do is set up a traffic campaign, which is driving people to our website. And then we would name it. So pure example sake, SC, so social cut, demo campaign, demo ALIA. And then we would put our second naming convention in, which is traffic. Oops. And then, June 23. So straight away, we know that this campaign is to do with today's demo. The conversion type was a traffic conversion, and we ran it in June 2023. We would select next. So now we're in the ad set. Now this is where we get to choose our audience. This is where we get to pick what we want to achieve. So whether they're sending us messages, they want to call us, they're sending them to the app, for example, etc. So SC, demo, traffic, June 23, and then we're going to go, we'll call this ad general audience. And as we come down, we can start setting our budget. So over on this side, it shows us our audience definition, as in the compressedness of that audience. So I might say, typically I like to use a lifetime budget. You can use a daily budget, but I'd like to be able to control how much I spend over the period. So I might say, $150, right? And I can run this campaign for as long or as little time as I want. Just down here, I've got Vladivostok. Apology, I can't pronounce that, but Vladivostok time. That's simply because there's actually no metric for Brisbane time. I'm based in Brisbane, and so there's Melbourne, Victorian time, there's Sydney time. I believe there should be Perth time as well. But obviously in daylight savings, that time changes. So this Vladivostok time is the only one that stays on GMT plus 10 throughout the year. Like, it doesn't seem to have daylight savings. So it makes life a lot easier for me, because I can see what time I'm actually running the ad from Brisbane. So it's very useful. So I might change that to PM. Cool. So here's where I can either use a saved audience, and that's some of the audiences we've already created. So, Brisbane, end of financial year, small business, interests, etc. And so, people who match small business, particular things they might be interested in, job title, business owner, so that's a behavior, etc. We can also use a custom audience, which is those ones I mentioned earlier. So lookalike audiences. Insta audience, that's an engagement audience, a customer list, which is people that have been uploaded to a list, whether that's a collection of emails and submitted into here. Pixel audience, so that's that website traffic one that I mentioned earlier, where they've gone to our website and we're retargeting them. Contacts, customer list again, engagement. We have lookalike audiences. It looks like we don't have one current in this account, but basically it's 10% of a website, a customer list, for example, or it's 10% of the number of people that have engaged in our Instagram account. And so again, it's using those metrics of, okay, they live in this area, they're interested in this, these are their attributes, and creating a similar person to that. So what I'll quickly do is just edit this down. So you can come in, you can select your location. For example, I might select Brisbane. And it replaces the Australia and just makes it quite small. So I've got 25 miles of Brisbane. You can, depending on who set the ad account originally, it can be in kilometers or miles. Obviously it's American, so typically it'll be in miles. We can set our age. So we want someone aged, say 25 to 60 to see this ad. Obviously this isn't a live ad necessarily, it's just a bit of a showing, this isn't my typical audience, but we're just going to go through as a demo. So as we can see, as we start to do this, our audience definition reduces, which isn't a bad thing necessarily, because the last thing we want to do is, I guess, reach too many people, unless we're doing, again, that awareness campaign where it's a really generic, we're reaching this particular postcode, because you can put it in by a drop pin as well. So like if you had a specific location that wasn't coming up in the search location, so you can drop pin to exactly where you are and set your radius around that. So it might just be a general, come to the library, this is where we service, or the areas we service. That in that case, you may not need to do additional audience targeting or filtering. However, again, if you were looking to do specifically a parents club, if you're looking specifically and see it's come up as coordinates. So if you were looking, as I said, to do a parents club or to target seniors, that's where you start adjusting these things. Interests, we can type in small business. Interests, small business, done. And what it can also do is start giving you suggestions based on that. So if you just select the suggestions, you can come through and select, okay, I'm interested in a business owner, which is a job title. I'm interested in a advertising, which is an interest area. You can also come through if you're setting up for the first time. I definitely recommend having a play and go through demographics, which again, we can scroll down a little bit. Could be parents, all parents, and you're selecting different ages of their children. You could do, life events. So maybe having an anniversary, or it's their birthday, or they're in a long distance relationship. I'm not sure when you'd be using these, but you never know. You might be doing a marriage related thing. Sorry, just having a look. Yeah, it doesn't appear to be a gender spectrum on Meta at this stage. I think that's why we would be selecting all, which is quite frustrating. But yeah, at this stage, they haven't really updated that. I don't know, again, that's a political thing. They obviously are American based and there's challenges there. So hard to say. We can narrow our audience down or exclude people as well. So we can say, we don't want people who are interested in this specific thing to be see this audience, which typically you wouldn't, but let's say, okay, let's jump back into this gender spectrum. Pure example sake, let's say we're promoting like an LGBTQIA+ event, and we don't want the negative feedback or backlash on those posts and comments. We want people who are actually interested in genuinely either allies or in the community to see those posts. What we might do is exclude people that are interested in certain things, like for example, whether that's interested in Trump or interested in known, I guess, areas that are going to cause challenges for that demographic. So because obviously what will happen is once these ads are run, they're run outside not only your regular followers, but they're run to a broader audience. So there may be comments, there may be feedback, and sometimes using an audience exclusion will help mitigate some of those problems and some of those negative feedbacks and comments. You can save the audience if you want. So same sort of thing. Social cut. demo audience, June 23. Again, I'm a stickler for naming conventions. It just makes everything easier in the long run, particularly if someone else is using my ad account outside of me. So whether that's a staff member or someone else. Now in here, we have a couple of options. So in terms of the placements of where they show up, you can do advantage placements, which basically means Facebook chooses for you, or you can do manual placements. So you may want to select, for example, just showing them on Instagram or just showing these in Messenger. So it really comes down to how you want to place them. For this example, we'll just do manual and then we can select, and more options means you can actually select the time, day, etc. Jumping through. Finally, the last step will be selecting our creative and just setting it up. So same sort of thing. SC demo. June 23, add one. So we've selected our Facebook page, our Instagram account. We can do a manual upload. We can do a catalog, which probably isn't something as relevant, but you can do that. You can have a carousel or a single image or video. In this instance, we're going to select carousel. We might add a card, add an image, upload an image. And let's say we're going to select 3 of our images. So once they start to upload, we can obviously select them to add in there. So let's say we add, it may upload, it may not. In the meantime, I'll just select a random image. Here we go, 1, continue. Pop your headline in, pop your description in and the website. And so for example's sake, headline, description. Sorry, my computer's decided that it doesn't really want to move right now. It's decided to freeze because that's, I guess that is one thing. I'm not sure if you have been working in the back end of Instagram, but it can be, or Facebook in this case, it can be a bit of a headache in that they there's often glitches. It's not something you've done wrong, it just happens. So it definitely is worthwhile having a bit of patience with the software and just trying again. If all goes completely wrong, I always recommend having your captions or having your creative kind of filed outside of the system, so documents, because it's crash for the sake of crashing, which is an absolute nightmare, but it does happen. So what we've just done is we've come down and added the primary text, which is what appears up here. We can see it in our different placements. It's a carousel, so you can obviously swipe from image to image, which again, as I mentioned earlier, you could have some text on that, which will encourage people to swipe through. We've selected the website. We can put any link in here, and we can write a headline too, for example. So I'm going to grab one. If it wants to work. And we might put another one here too. So we might call this one social media marketing. Okay. So as you can see, you can start building them out. Basically, the next step would be to publish, and then those ads are going live. What I'll also show you, I'm just going to X out of it because I don't need to worry about that now, would be if we're doing a boost, which is probably another regular campaign you would do. Same concept, create. And so in this case, we're hitting engagement. Now, I'm not going to do my naming conventions just for time's sake, but again, you would do that whole process again, where we're setting it up for the name, the audience, etc. Oh, I don't want that. Create. Apologies, it just took me to another page that I don't particularly want. Manual control. Okay, so in this instance, it's selected a tailored messages campaign. I'm going to do manually because I know exactly where I want it to go. You can use the tailored messages campaign style too, which will just set it up for you. But if you are wanting to just boost a post that you've created, this is a really simple way to do it. So as before, you put your new title at the top there. You come down to the next one. So that's selecting next or selecting the ad set. Same thing. We want to go get people to engage on our ad. This is if we're doing a boosted post, we want them to interact with our ad, event, whatever it is. Or if we're doing a page-like ad, we want them to interact with our Facebook page, which means liking the page or sharing in that respect. Now, the next thing we need to look at is a very important one too, which is what we want them to do. So do we want them to have an event response or a post engagement or a video view? In this case, post engagement. And again, we set up our budget as we see fit. This is a daily budget. You can set an end date if you'd like, so it only runs for a certain period. I recommend doing that if it was an event, or even a paid ad if you'd like to. I typically look to run a boosted post for no longer than 30 days if possible. So yes, we've come down. We're just going to use a general audience. It's very, very broad, but in this case, just as a demo, that's what we're looking to do. And then we come in here. And again, in this instance as well, we may wish to change our placements to be manual placements. So let's say we're boosting an Instagram post and we want all of the engagement to remain on Instagram on the post itself, so it shows a higher stat. That's how we would select Instagram posts only. So let's pop in. Yeah, we'll just select this one, just again, as an example. Now, this one is actually a boosting a reel. See this little pop-up here? Actually, it's gone, which is good. Typically, you may get a pushback when you're boosting a reel from Instagram, because Facebook has its fun little ways of recognizing and not recognizing videos. So what it may do is throw up a pop-up saying, this video must be uploaded to Facebook to promote it. If you are promoting this video in Instagram only as a reel because you want to get more reach, just ignore it. Typically, you can still push it through, because if you do choose the Facebook version of it, so if it's uploaded to Facebook and then it comes across to Instagram, in the feed, that organic reel doesn't show the reach at all. You need to select the video post. So just to show you what I've done, I have selected the ad creative as the post and come down and scroll down. These are all posts that have been posted to, this is Facebook, that have been posted to my Facebook page. These are all posts that have been posted to my Instagram page. It will show me stories. It will show all sorts of things. And you can select the one. So I've just selected this reel, which was posted on May 20. You can filter them too. By post type, you can select dates, or you can select keywords that have been in the post to help you actually find it. And then in this instance, we'd select publish. So hopefully, I know that was quite a fast run through, and obviously this will be uploaded to the YouTube account, so you can have a run through it a little bit further again. But I'm going to stop sharing my screen just for the moment, just so we can have a bit of a check-in. So I suppose at this stage, I know that was a lot of info for anyone who hasn't seen the back end of Facebook before, but was there anyone that had any particular questions about how that may work or how to utilize that to amplify your messaging? I think you're on mute, Ashley.
Yep. You guys can unmute to ask your questions if you guys feel like it, or you guys can type it in the chat and I can ask them. It's just, yeah, it took a little bit of time for us to figure out the tech issues.
Oh, no, that's absolutely fine. So obviously that's quite an involved process and it does take time, but it can be, once you get used to the systems of Facebook, it can be really effective in distributing your content to a wider audience. Looking back at it as well, you can, hang on, I'm going to just go back into that channel so you can see more of what I'm talking about in terms of that reporting and understanding the reporting from it. So let me just share the screen again. I am obviously aware of time as well, because we've got about 20 minutes left, which is great because we're jumping into the last two sections after this. So I'm just going to exit out of this. Now, see how they're currently sitting in green? That's simply because they're in draft, which you'll see here. So nothing's published and nothing's live at the moment. One thing, let me have a look at Let's go maximum, just so I can give you a bit of a broad scope of what things may have looked like. Maximum. All right. So it appears that all of these ads were linked campaigns. So obviously the results there will show us that these were all traffic campaigns. It shows us our reach. It also shows us our impressions. And as I mentioned, the impressions are always higher than the reach. What we can do is we can break down either by the time and delivery, but what we do want to see is whatever we'd like. So for example, performance is typically what you'd see in your ads manager, and that will show us, what it is that's performed well, impressions, cost per result. So we can see how much it costs per click. We can see how much was spent. We can see how long they ran for. We can actually go in on a deeper level and have a look at so ignore these obviously all cost per result, quality ranking. At this stage, this one hasn't been ranked, but these are those 3 rankings: the relevance, engagement rate, conversion, amount spent, etc. What we can also look at then is what our engagement looked like, if that was a result we were looking for. And we can see that there's been link clicks, there's been 2-page engagements, etc. This has only been set up this morning, I think, so it's probably not going to be showing us very much at all. But you can see your post reactions, your post comments, saves, etc. So when you're doing the reporting, it's all just down the bottom here or in these columns. You can produce a report, so you can export the data table, create a custom report, which would give you the opportunity to actually fill this stuff in, and it develops a report for you and you can download it. So it can help with the reporting process there. And if it decides to load, I can show you. Let me see. Come on, reporting. Apparently not. All right, I'm going to leave that loading in the back screen while we jump onto our next. Oh, here we go. No, it's here. So yes, so we can have a look, and again, it's up to you whether you need this sort of level of detail, but what we can see here is, I'm just going to close that. We can see here is, what was the delivery? And typically you could have more than one in here. So you might have multiple ads that you've run and you can compare them. You can choose the columns you'd like to see. So for example, age. And we can see, I mean, this is probably not the best example, but we can see, the ages of the people who are engaging with it. So, one person aged 25 to 34, one person aged 18 to 24, etc. You have the days and months. You can really, really narrow down what they did with this. So like, did they click on the carousel card? Did they go to destination, call to action, headline, etc. So we can really break down when you wanted to see those demographics, these types of reports. You can set the date as well. So whether that's, last 7 days, last 30 days, typically it'd be a 30-day report. But yes, so I guess the biggest recommendation here is play, like jump in the back end, have a play. There is also the Meta Business Hub, which will give you step-by-step guides as well if you do have any challenges. That's called the Business Help Center, I think. And you can actually click through and do some learnings there as well. Another place that's really, really useful to learn about how to do ads is LinkedIn, which seems very bizarre because it's backwards, but there's a lot of trainings on LinkedIn that allow you to have a look at those things too.
And I know a lot of people from our last workshop were also talking about how they post a lot of their content and ads on LinkedIn as well.
Yes, which is amazing because we're jumping into LinkedIn now. Okay, so excellent. So I know that last time here we go. This should be correct. Yep, perfect. Last time we were talking about mostly Facebook, Instagram, a little bit about TikTok. We didn't touch too much on LinkedIn, so we did include a little bit more about LinkedIn in this session. It's a general overview as well. So we're looking at the main things you'd be promoting for the library on LinkedIn, which is sharing library content, pretty straightforward, posts, articles, etc. Connecting with professionals, I think that's a really big thing because I know we had some libraries very specific to industries like healthcare, etc., or health industries and things like that. So having the ability to connect directly with professionals, and you can search them by, their title, you could search them by location. And if we were doing LinkedIn ads, I'm going to caveat that. I don't recommend LinkedIn ads from a budget perspective, unless you have a lot of it. The cost per click for a LinkedIn campaign might be $5. The cost per click on Facebook and Instagram is usually, between 20 cents and $1. So it's a lot different. However, if you have a very specific niche audience, and again, it comes back to what's that click or that conversion worth to you, it may be worthwhile. So just caveating that. One of the big things that LinkedIn does have the opportunity to do is, as a page or as a person, you can join groups and share into it, which I know you do have the opportunity on Facebook, but on LinkedIn, it's obviously a lot more industry focused. So again, coming back to those questions around, as a library servicing a particular sector, this would be a very, very good opportunity to connect in with this would be a very good opportunity to connect in with those people who are in that group. So firstly, there is obviously library information science particular focus group, so ones within your particular niche industry. However, I'd be looking at those wider professional groups, whether that's, Queensland healthcare professionals, it could be a nurses association, doctors, whatever it is. And also, again, it depends on what your library caters to, but jumping in there as a human or as the library and sharing content where you can, because it definitely helps get that reach up. Double tapped. You can engage with the community as well. So obviously you can share updates and events on LinkedIn, which is great, because if you're doing a professional development workshop, that would be the place to promote it. You can obviously put it on Facebook too, but typically if we are talking like B2B or, to a professional community, promoting it that way on LinkedIn is great. This is back, I guess, that kind of comment as well. The professional development and training that's offered on LinkedIn, so it's in LinkedIn Learning, is amazing. Like, you can learn so much, and a lot of it, some of it you need to be a premium member, but a lot of it is free. And it's kind of like a information hub, step-by-step mini series. Once you do those trainings, and this is for anyone, even outside of promoting the library on LinkedIn, the little icons, they add to your learnings on your LinkedIn profile as well. So you can actually get like little certificates for the different types of trainings you've done. But honestly, I do think that a lot of those Facebook, Instagram, social media trainings from just a basic usage level are fantastic, because they definitely show you how to do step-by-step something very niche that you're looking for. You can also obviously promote the library services too. So I think that's a pretty straightforward one, but it's very relevant for what you guys are doing, because being able to share that your library is very specifically about a particular industry sector group of people. And I know this is obviously to a very small group here, but just being able to cater and promote that conversation in the space that they're in while they're in business mode is very worthwhile. Because I did pop in the next slide about, and it is a lot, there's quite a bit of words. So again, you get a bit of which I guess were professional versus personal. So LinkedIn is a very professional network. So one of the big things I talk about with our clients and with our campaigns a lot is that, when are they interacting with us and why? So if I'm trying to reach a business owner, I firstly need to think about what platform they're using. So if they're, let's say, in hospitality, they're likely not on LinkedIn very often. So I will be reaching them on Facebook or Instagram. But I also need to respect the fact that Facebook and Instagram is their personal space. Like, if they're using it as a user, not as the business, they're using it during their personal time, which really takes me back to that original statement I made about, if it's annoying you, hide it. Because ultimately, if I'm seeing these ads, it's in my personal time, it's my weekend, I'm looking at social media to engage with my friends, and I'm getting blasted with some real nonsense ads. That drives me nuts, because they are professionals are people too, right? Like, everyone knows that. You guys are professionals and people. It's pretty straightforward. So I think having that awareness of what type of ad and how you're running it and where it's being run is super important. So on LinkedIn, you do have the opportunity to be a little bit more salesy, a little bit more professional toned, and also a little bit more direct to the point. Like, here's unique USP 1, 2, 3. Like, here are the main things you're going to get out of it. Here's some industry language and lingo. It can be quite tailored. On like your Facebook and Instagram, you need to be a little bit more human. So yeah, obviously, two big thing is business and industry news exists on LinkedIn. It does to some degree on Facebook and Instagram, but people have to go seek it out. They're not there naturally in that mind space doing it. Network and relationship building. Again, same sort of concept. You can use Facebook groups. Typically, they're more community groups. They're more there are some business groups, but they still have an essence of community style interaction. Whereas on LinkedIn, it's a lot more, dear so-and-so, thanks for connecting with me. This is a great opportunity, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And the major difference as well is the content format. So obviously on LinkedIn, you have the opportunity to write articles or publish articles, share scientific information or facts, and create longer form content. People are on LinkedIn when they're on LinkedIn, again, typically in a professional mindset, whereas when on social, like on Facebook or Instagram or any other social media platform, that's not quite the case. So you can still share that as like here's a link to more info. So let's say that's a historical context. You might be sharing something about the history of the library. You'd be pulling out in the caption the fun facts about it. Like, did you know, da, 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 and some really fun, engaging things, and then link to more info. So people who are interested will go and look at that additional, let's say it was a building permit, I don't know, but like look at that really media, more traditionally drier content because they're interested. However, on LinkedIn, you have the opportunity to call out that sort of stuff like, wow, it was amazing in 1928. They were able to build this based on this, thing being passed, whatever. But very different language again, because you do want to make sure that the content you're producing for those channels really, really relates to, I guess, how people are using it, but also what mindset they're in. So I'd say LinkedIn is probably the only one that has a really different language positioning and relationship with the user or with your audience, in that they expect to be talked to like they're a business person or a professional. Whereas on social media, like I guess on Facebook and social media, it's all social media, but on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter's a little bit gray because it can sit in the middle, but TikTok typically, you're more human to human. So it's really about using more of a chattier language. Alrighty, I guess at this stage, because we're just jumping into the fine a little bit, and then we have some time for questions at the end as well, but any extra questions about LinkedIn usage or how we might use it or why we might use it for libraries? Okay. So this bit here is really just a nice and simple. I know this was a question that we had last time, so it's really just to answer that question, which was how to make content more accessible. We don't really have to run through it necessarily. Like I can jump in and show you really quickly, but what I've done is popped in here the details about how to add captions to your, like closed captions to your Facebook videos. This is where it actually auto-generates them for you. There is an option to upload an SRT file if you've already got the captions, but it's really fiddly. So I recommend this version because it's much quicker. And typically what will happen is most of the time the captions are really, really well picked up by Facebook. Like it does seem to pick up the audio quite clearly and convert it quite accurately. However, if there are names, for example, locations, places, certain words, or if you want to remove little things like or are, you can actually edit it once it's already been uploaded or automatically created, I suppose, by Facebook. You can edit those captions to have a bit of a clearer read. Yeah, I guess as simple as that. So once I can go through these steps, but I don't think it's really necessary. Let me know if you'd like me to, but it is very, very step by step. Same thing with Facebook photos. There is an ability to upload alt text. I know this was a question as well. Just in here, I've included the steps on how to do that. Obviously in the alt text box, keep it as simple as possible. So, as simple as possible, and then there needs to be an informative description about the image itself, but most of the context around that image will be included in the captions. So you don't feel like you need to write a story about why the photo was taking place and, who the background story of the person in the photo, for example, that would go into the caption. So just really focus on the photo itself when you're writing the alt text and just explain what that is. So someone who might be needing to access the alt text for accessibility can actually just get the picture straight away. Same sort of thing, Instagram Reels. You can upload this directly to Instagram. It will auto-generate the captions. With Instagram as well, you can actually change how the captions are laid out, like the font styles, where they're placed, etc. There's a bit more movement in that, so you can move them around. You can change the caption itself if, again, there's errors in like names, locations, additional words that you don't want to include. Same thing with photos, exactly the same, and also LinkedIn alt text as well. again, I haven't run through this in specific detail because you will get a copy of this and you'll be able to use this as a handy guide anytime you are uploading these images, and just go through and follow each of these steps. And then you can actually get the accessibility there. So, I mean, that's, I think, answering all the questions we had from last time. Was there anything I missed?
Yeah, are there any questions anyone asked that they feel like we missed, or is there anything on the content you've seen today that you would like to ask? Or yeah, any comments, queries, or questions would be lovely. Looks like we've got a bit of a shy group today.
No, that's totally cool. So for our next session, which is next Tuesday, next Tuesday,
Yes.
That one's really opening up to questions. So I'll come with a little bit of extra prepared content, but really what I would love to see is you guys starting to post some content, have a look at the results you're getting, have a look at, you know, what's working and not working. And once and basically come and ask, because like I'm happy to sit here with you guys and actually go through like one-on-one training or live training, because obviously if you have a question, everyone else likely has the same question or a similar question. So feel free to bring them along with you. Be like, hey, look, I've done my most recent report. This went really well. This didn't. Why? Because I guess ultimately I'm trying to give you as many tools as I can to kind of get you on the right track. So if you have a campaign in mind and want to play on the back end, or if you have $20 available on your marketing budget, do a boost, do a couple between now and next Tuesday. And then we can sit down together and actually have a look at how they go and, you know, chat through what's working, what's not working, any maybe recommendations there too. But yes, I know that was a pretty dense topic, so I'm really sorry. I really hope you all have a copy with you. But yeah, so basically, yeah, the next session really is more of a drop-in.
If any of you guys also next session want to bring examples of things you want to turn into campaigns, we would love to see them.
100%.
Maybe even give advice or
give
you directions.
Yeah, I think that's it. So, because I think, let me just make sure, because I know I've got my little format here. So yeah, section 3, applying the above, hands-on discussion, examples of how to use social media for your library, things that worked, things that didn't. So whether you've got a campaign idea, whether you've done a campaign recently and you wanted to, you know, just assess its success, really. You're like, look, we did this one 6 months ago, don't really know how to interpret these results, bring them along and we can chat about it. Because as I said, everyone in the group will also have questions, but there'll also be learnings out of what your results, like what worked well and didn't work well for them too, when they're going into their next campaign or their next social media post or whatever.
Yeah. And if you guys can also bring some examples of social media posts you guys have done, that'd be really great for us as a group to take a look at and see what worked, what didn't work as well.
Yeah, amazing.
But yeah, so yeah, opening it up to the floor, comments, queries. But yes,
I know, Christy, that was a lot of information to sink in.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm so sorry. Oh, not my phone, but I'm just like, sorry guys, this get a tea, get a coffee, because it's going to be a bit of a media one.
Yeah. And thank you again for creating that PDF so that we can send it out to everyone and being able to have those step-by-steps that we can follow a little later as well.
Woohoo! Well done.
Congratulations.
I love that, because I know that was a question last week, 3 weeks ago, given that I was out with the flu. But yeah, it was around that alt text. Because obviously, given the space that you guys are in is so important. And to be honest, it really helps with the reach of the post too, because particularly on Instagram works as a bit of an SEO. So when you type, whatever you type in the comment will help with the reach, but also the alt text helps Instagram search. So when people are searching stuff using Instagram search bar, your stuff is more likely to appear.
Okay, that's actually really good.
Yeah.
Adding to the searchability of all the posts, which is always
which is also why you would see from, I totally forgot to put this in the last one, I'm really sorry. You'd also see from previous, I guess, best practice was like social media hashtags were in the comments section. A lot of the time now you're seeing a couple of them in the main post or the main caption. And again, that's because of the keywords that Instagram searching. One last thing about LinkedIn, which I don't know if I mentioned last time, but basically, if you are using like an article or a blog post that's already on the website, make sure you change at least 25% of it because it will compete for SEO. So Google does search LinkedIn as an SEO space. And if there's two versions of the same piece of content, it'll rank the one that's performing higher, right? LinkedIn obviously is going to have way more traffic than your website. That's the reality. Like LinkedIn as a whole is a massive international platform. So if you're taking literally a blog from your website, sticking it in an article on LinkedIn, it will reduce the value or your SEO ranking of the website. Again, for you guys, it's not as much of a problem, but I still recommend as a best practice, just changing at least 25% of that text if you are going to duplicate.
So what does the abbreviation SEO mean?
SEO is search engine optimization, which is basically what Google uses to rank your page. So if you're searching for a business, obviously for a library, and you type in library near me, you guys will have a pretty good ranking because you're typically a government-based organization or council-based. So that will automatically be ranked above a commercial page. But what happens is, like, if there's duplicate versions of the same content on the internet, Google will rank whichever page performs higher and put that search above the other page. So it's like, you know, that, and everyone really wants to be on that like front page of Google. So if you're taking a blog or an article off a website and sticking it into LinkedIn, you're reducing the impact of the reach of that website, or its ranking on the Google ladder, basically, by doing that. So it's neither here nor there to some degree for libraries, but it is something to be aware of just for future. If you've got stuff on a side hustle or your own things going on, just always make sure they're different.
Wonderful, thank you.
All right, well, I guess,
I
yes.
think that's, yeah.
Thanks, Susan. Have a good afternoon. Thank you, guys. Well, great to chat to you. And as I said, please feel free to bring stuff with you for the next session, because it's definitely a collaborative session where we can learn as much as we can and answer conversations or questions.
And yeah, thank you everyone for all the mess around we had with organizing it. I myself didn't realize we'd reorganize for simultaneous story time. And I know with a lot of our public libraries, that's a very big event, especially for families.
That's fair.
So thank you, everyone. And hopefully we're all excited for next week and our more interactive play around.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah. So, yeah. I will let you all go for lunch and coffees and some information absorption time.